Welcome everyone. The topic for the day is organizational development models. We will be discussing different models that have been propounded by management thinkers and authors in this presentation. So basically, this is relatively a new field of study. It was populated or propounded in the 1950s and 1960s. It is all about how organization functions, how people behave, and what clicks for organization and people to function nicely. The start point is when leaders identify undesirable situation and probably seeks to rectify it. We are talking about the start point where we are looking for a change in an organization. The focus, remember, is to make it slim, trim, and better as far as organization is concerned. So it's a total system change that we are looking out. Then is the orientation. Orientation is nothing but the action about it, achieving result through planned activities and no unifying theories, just the models of practices that we'll be talking about it. Remember, organizational development is organizational strategies. So the start point, did I say about the start point? There are many things that comes about it. We have poor qualities, we have poor design stuff, we have poor team performance. Now these are everything that's getting plagued around it. The interpersonal conflict, the intergroup conflict, inappropriate managerial styles or leadership style, poor morale, lower productivity, unclear goals. Now, basically, what are we looking into it? We are trying to eliminate all these points that needs to be going around it. So we need to have something called organizational development, as the case might be, for the upliftment, upgrading, or probably enhancing the performance the organization. So basically, what are the things that needs to be changed? This is the first order and the second order change. Remember, the first order change is to make a slight incremental changes, whereas second order is to have a radical change altogether. So we are looking for change, as in an opportunity of an organization to upgrade itself. Remember, identification is all about it. What you are going to identify? The thing that is not functioning in sync to the organization objective. Organizational development consultant are experts for organizational change. Remember, this is what we're looking at it. So orientation, we come to the next part would be the orientation. The process is all about an action research. Now basically we are talking about implementing changes. This is what we are looking into it. If we look at from diagnosis to taking actions to re-diagnosis and taking newer action, so it's basically nothing but implementation. What are the implementations that goes around it? And to mention about the implementation, there are three ingredients to it. One is participation. Can we have a wholesome heartedly participation from employees across the level? This is what the collaborators and the consultant would be looking into it to ingrain the new change values into it. And last step would be the last ingredient would be the amalgamation process of the diagnosis and the action. Whatever you have said was the fallacies in the organization, those diagnose that thing that has been diagnosed, and thereby what actions you're going to take around it. This is what we are looking at, the crux of it. Remember, change occurs based on the actions taken. New knowledge comes from examining the results of the actions thereby. This is what we're looking into it. Let us understand the history of OD. First and foremost thing, the major stems of OD is the T group analysis that we come around it, the survey feedback technology, the action research, and the socio-technical and socio clinical approaches that has been prevalent. Remember, the T group, the survey feedback, the action research, and the technical and the clinical approaches with respect to the social ambiences that comes around it is what the major themes are all about it. What is T group research? It is basically nothing but having an observation under a laboratory conditions. So basically it is the participants learn from their own action, their own group evolved dynamics that comes around it. With the advent of closed circuit television, this could be very many times manifold implemented altogether. They can actually see, observe how people are reacting. Next is developing reliable questionnaire. This is what about the feedback is all about, is wherein we are basically depending on collecting data from person, analyzing it for the trends, and then probably coming to certain kind of conclusion as to what steps to be taken to rectify if anomaly is present. Then comes the diagnosis or the implementation process, which is all about taking action, again re-diagnosis, again taking newer action, again diagnosis, again taking new action. So basically we are going for an incremental improvement in the organizational ambiences. Integrating social requirements of an employee with technical requirement needed to be known in the provided environment that we are looking into it. Let us understand the revolutionary values and beliefs of organizational development. According to Warren Bennis, let me quote: organic system, both mutual confidence and trust rather than mechanical system, which is authority and obediences. According to Richard Beckert, it was stated as basic units of change are groups and definitively not individual. Robert Tenenbaum, on the other hand, stated away from resisting and fearing individual differences towards accepting and utilizing them. So these are the beliefs and the values that I have populated for you people to understand the complete diversity of organizational development. Remember, basically, what I have given you a crux, if you can glorify it, it is all about trust, respect for individual, open communication, decentralization, decision making, collaboration, appropriate use of power. This is what we are looking into it, absolutely, and authenticate interpretation of relationships which is to be done. So what are we looking into it? We are only looking nothing but everything that is for the benefit of the organization in terms of individual development, group development, community development, collaborations, decentralization, empowering, and above all, it is the relationship which we give an importance out here. So this is very important, that needs to be understood by all of us about organizational development. So second generation ODs or organizational development is the transformation that we are talking about. We're talking about the cultures, we are talking about the learning, we are talking about TQM, we are talking about the future search, the BPR and the QWL, the quality work life. So what are we talking about? It's a complete transformation of the organization. Yes, with the advent of the pandemic, people have shifted, and probably now from a physical space to a virtual space. Now probably there is a third paradigm which known as the phygital space, where it's a amalgamation of physical plus digital, phygital as in. So that is what organizational transformation or the cultures which has to be brought in. This, if you are working in a phygital mode, it is the learning organization that we're talking about it, the total quality management, the vision, the future search, the business process reengineering, and quality of work life that comes around. So change is essentially, according to Burke-Litwin. Now I will be discussing about the models and theories in the rest of the presentation, which has been left around it. Remember, according to Kurt Lewin, the most famous and my best favorite thing is all about this change of unfreezing, moving, and refreezing. So, stage one, it is all about unfreezing the habits, the old habits, then coming to the new behaviors, which is absolutely moving, and then refreezing or probably establishing the norms according to the new behavior that comes around it. Remember, Edgis-Stein modified this theory to a psychological mechanism in each of the states, whereas, which I will be discussing in the next part, is about Ronald Lippett and Gene Watson. Bruce Wesley expanded this model into a seven-stage model. Remember, Kurt Lewin model was only a three-stage model that comes around it. So we got a fourth dimension by Edgar Schein, where the psychological mechanism was incorporated, but most effective. I still believe Kurt Lewin is the father of change management, organizational change, be it, and so be it. But the other comprehensive model comes, as far as Ronald is concerned, is the seven-stage model, which tells me first you need to identify what is the need that is going to be changed. Then probably once you have identified, you will speak about the change relationship that is going to take place, and thereby insinuating the client about the problem therein, examining the alternative routes and definitive goals and intentions of action needs to be clarified, stated, propounded, and made to understand to every stakeholders out here. Once this has been done, the transformation of intention into actual change, or what I say, the moving stage in the Kurt-Lewin methods, or let me check it in another form as an implementation or executions of your work around it. Once this has been done, now you have to stabilize it. The third stage of Kurt Lewin's is the refreezing stage. This is what we are talking about and achieving in a terminal relationship that is there. So Ralph Kilman, on the other hand, had propounded this other method of changes that comes around it, as far as the culture track is concerned. Remember, the culture track is all about the culture track started from the management skill trap, beckons the team building track that comes around it, and then the strategy structure track that gets around. Last but not the least would be your rewards track, which comes absolutely then and there. So what are we talking about in track one? Track one, it is all about enhancing trust, communication, information. Track two, on the other hands, would be ways to mitigate complex problems, ways to diffuse complex problem. Now one, track three is what is we are looking into it, as in the new culture that needs to be incorporated, as in the new ideas, the new management skills that needs to be updated. Track 4 is what we talk about the strategy implementation, and last but not the least would be the track 5. It's the established performance based pay reward. This is what we have done. And to speak about it, these are the company AT&T, Eastman Kodak, Ford, Electric, and Xerox have incorporated this model successfully. So another one of the famous model, which probably I do like it about it, is Burke-Litwin model for organizational change. What does it change? There is again two step. In this is all my favorite models are very minimal step and very simple to understand. Two step is the transactional change, the first order change, and the second stage is the transformational change. In transactional stage, we are looking into an incremental level altogether, right? But in transformational level, the levels of change is like this, absolutely by leaps and bounds that goes around it. So please understand this thing, it's very simple. So OD interventions directed towards structures, management practices, and system policies and procedures result in first order changes, wherein OD intervention directed towards mission, the strategy, leadership, the organization culture result in the second order state, which changes by leaps and bounds, by gallops altogether, and all incremental changes are first order changes as far as Warner Burke is concerned. So the models, what are the transformational models? The second order stage, it is all about the external thing, the mission, the leadership. So these are the external models. Remember, these are the transformational models which comes around it. And in other way, the rest of the model is all your transactional model that comes around. Simply stated, these are day-to-day system policies, work climate, management practices, organizational structure, tasks requirement, motivation, individual needs, reporting system needs to be done, the process needs to be changed, all about the individual. So anything which is micro orientated would be transactional, which is on a day to day basis, on a month to month basis, on a week to week basis. But on a transformational basis is a change which change the bigger objective altogether, in the sense of the external environment. Probably the reason for the organization existence changes altogether, the platform changes, the technology changes, the product changes, the market changes. So we are talking about external environment, we're talking about the organizational cultures, the mission, the strategies thereof. That is what we are looking at it. Porras and Robertson, remember Jerry Porras and Peter Robertson model of organizational change. It is all about work setting. This is what they stated. Remember, work setting change. relates to the individual behavior change, which in turn leads individual and organizational improvement altogether. So what are the four things that comes in your mind? First and foremost thing is an organizational arrangement, the social factors, the physical setting, and the technology. Any changes in these four things will actually result into a change behavior or organizational change altogether. Again, I say organizational arrangement, social factors, physical settings, and technologies that comes around it. We are talking about everything out here. Absolutely. So moving to the slide. So what will be the changes that we are looking into it? See, organization structures is all about the environment, the goals, the strategies, the structures, the policies and procedures. What about the social is all about the cultural things, right? What are your vision? How do you go about it? How do you work around these operations, the management style, the how do you communicate, the informal network, the individual attributes. Let us come to the physical setting, as in your office or your workspace or your shop floor. How is the space been configured, the physical ambience around it. Last but not the least, which has got a due importance of late, is the technology, the machinery. Is it mechanical, is it automatic, it is fully automatic, it is robotic? What a kind of material, what kind of technologies are you incorporating all together? So that needs to be understood. Organizing arrangement, social factors, physical settings, technology there. Talking about the system theory, organization are open system in an active exchange in their environment. What does this David Nadler stated about it? Organization is as a process altogether, from input to output, nothing else, and in between is your operational issues that has been there. This is the organization which works around it. This is what we are looking into it. The informal organization, the formal organization, the people, the work. This is what we are looking into it. And how do we precisely go about it? It is all about your strategies and all about your input. Remember, your input is from the environment, the resources, the history, the congruence model that we are speaking around it, which output relates to the organization unit, the individuals that goes around it. It is a turmoil that comes around in the process in between. David Nadler stated this altogether. Let us come explore the socio-technical system theory, STS as is popularly known as. Remember, all organizations are of two independent systems. One is the techno system, the other one is the human system or the social system, what we are talking about it. These are things that needs to be understood time and again, every day, every hour. If you cannot go about it, you just cannot live. So all organization comprises of two interdependent system. Remember, any change in one of the system will affect the other systems simultaneously and in a definitive fashion. To achieve high productivity, high satisfaction of employees and organizations, to strive a balance between both the social system and the technical system. Now we'll talk about the participations and empowerment. After the models, how does it relates to the employees involvement altogether? Participation in OD programs are not restricted to elites or top people. It is extended broadly throughout the organization. Increased participation and empowerment have always been a central goals and fundamental values of organizational development that comes around it. Participation, remember, participation is all about empowerment. Empowerment basically relates directly proportional to the performances. If you have good participation, there is a sense of belongingness among the employees. If there's a good sense of belongingness, the productivity improves, right? So that is what empowerment. Remember, empowerment is the key to get people educated, to get people participate in the change process. This is what we are looking as participation empowerment is concerned. So let us come on to the team and the teamworks around it. What do we have it? We need to understand with everything about team and teamwork. Now, teamwork should have a clear, elevated goals altogether. Yes, there is something which needs to taken about it. It should be result oriented. It should be competent. It should be unified commitment. It should be collaborative climate. It is a team feeling. Remember, this is what we are looking into. It the standard of excellence is all what we are aspiring for. The external support and the recognition, the principal leadership that we are determining over a period of time. So, what are we looking at? Clear, elevated goals, We are looking at result driven structure. We are looking at dedicated members. We are looking at competitive members. We are talking about collaborative climate, cooperation, absolutely transparency. Standard of excellence has to be the external support and recognition and principal leadership. So many tasks, remember, in a work setting, almost all the tasks are quite complex and it cannot be finished until and unless cooperation has been extended by different individuals, different functional department, and as a result it should be accomplished as a unified work altogether. So if we need to empower our individuals to create such an extraordinary effort, a team which has synergy in them, which basically means a sum of individual effort is far less than the sum of the team effort. So individual effort, the synergistic effort is all of, we are looking into it. A number of organizational development intervention can be done to improve or integrate such certain performances, example team building and circle thereby. So let us have the other system that comes around it as far as parallel system structures are concerned. A parallel learning structure consists of steering committee, a number of working groups that study what changes are to be required, what changes needs to be incorporated, the ideas, the groups, the action group, the implementation group, the execution group. These needs to be there. Remember, you should always have an effective executive, a person with decision making capacity, a person who is in a responsible position should be part of such committees as in the steering committees are concerned. A high force in bureaucratic organization, a high force of inertia has been present. A hierarchical communication pattern develops, a standard ways of communication lets down altogether. Now we need to have that system in places at all point of time to inhibit inhibit any kind of learning innovations changes that comes around it. Here parallel learning structures are the best methodologies to initiate. So normative re-educative strategy that comes around it, which needs to be understood all by one and for everyone. So basically, as a norm form based on the behavior, based on the changes that comes through re-education, in which old norms are challenged, old norms are discarded, old norms are replaced by the new ones. Remember, what are the changes we are looking into it? We are looking into attitude changes, we are looking at value changes, we are looking at skill changes and the changes in the relationship that comes around it. Norms can be best changed by focusing on the group and definitely not on the individual. Norms should be generic in nature and not individual oriented. So here comes the applied behavioral changes that comes around it. Look what we are looking at in applied sciences. It is all about practice theories and practice research. This will help me solve problems. This is what is applied science. Wherein pure or basic science, what helps you is behavioral science and behavioral science theory. What is the theory and what is the research which helps in around it? Can we come across and build an applied behavioral sciences that is coming around? We'll talk about the action research. Action research is nothing, it is all about data collection, feedback, and data system from the clients, from the members. The action planning, the executions based upon the data coming around it. What are we talking around? How do we go about it? And have a retrospective effect as in the feedback is concerned, evaluating the steps, the action that we have taken. Remember, action research are of four types basically: diagnostic, participative, empirical, and experimental. Experimental doesn't impact the should I say doesn't impact the real life data, but they are always are precedented before it been implemented altogether. Action research can be diagnostic, participative, empirical. Diagnostic tells you what are the probable problems that is plaguing the organization. Participative, it is the camaraderie of the employees that tries in a cooperative unified ways to mitigate problems. Empirical problems would be stating into a factual data that comes around it. So remember, researchers enters a problem situation. Diagnosis is diagnostic. We are talking about the people who are who are involved from the beginning is the participative thing that we're looking into it. Then is the empirical thing, which is all about data that I've already stated to you. A extensive record what has been kept. Experimental is control research research on the relative effectiveness of various techniques. It's a control thing. It might be a pilot survey, a pilot research that been going about it before actually the action comes into it. Let us understand the six box model of diagnosis as far as Marvin Weisbord is concerned. Remember, he stated absolutely first and the foremost thing, everything can we absorb, assimilate from the environment, and that is where we try to identify a gap, if any. If not, we try to synergize ourselves and with a helpful mechanism build upon our relationships, which probably goes to a purpose of the organization, for existence of the organization, establish the structures and rewards thereof. Everything is mutual for it, and the crux of the matter is the leadership that goes around it. This model is widely practiced by each of the organizational development practitioners around it. So actions, four conditions: the organization has a problem, take a corrective action. Organization sees an unrealized opportunity, obviously enabling actions, take the opportunities altogether, encash the opportunity. Features of an organization out of alignment, then there is something called aligned action that to be taken. What are the rectification that needs to be worked around it? Yesterday's vision is no longer good enough, action for new vision that we go around, actions to build necessary structures, processes and cultures to make a new vision a reality. That is what we're looking at it. Then comes the intervention. Major families of OD interventions are diagnostic, team building, intergroup, education and training, structural, process consultation, grid OD, third party reduced peacekeeping, coaching, life career planning, and so on and so forth that comes around it, which needs to be taken care for. We have to mark everything as far the planning is concerned, the goal setting is concerned, the strategic management is concerned. This is what we are looking at it. So these are the families of OD interventions. First and foremost thing, we need to be diagnostic. We need to build a team to mitigate the or avert the anomaly or the impediment that is plaguing the organization. We have to educate. We have to remove certain structural blocks, certain process consultation, and so on and so forth. So many intervention, approximately 12 intervention is something which I've already stated around it there. And believe me or not, each interventions have their own list of activities that need to be brought in forward. So example is let me elaborate with an example of a team building interactions or interventions. So first and foremost thing, have an intact work teams and a specialized team. With intact work teams, you will talk about the diagnostic meetings, build focus on the goal setting of the objectives, build building and maintaining effective personal relationship, interpersonal relationship, and role clarification, role definition. Whereas in specialized team, it's the team building is focused on the task accomplishment. Now this, remember, is an intact work team which does not require absolutely any objectives or goals in the first place, but specialized teams are already aware of it, right? So we need to speak about the task allocation, inter-unit conflict that comes around it. This is what we are looking all the times. And the role negotiation, that is very important. The role negotiation, the inter-unit conflict, the task allocation is of utmost importance. Then comes the program management. Cummings and Worley identified approximately five sets of activities for effective change management. Number one being motivating change, looking for our future vision, developing a support, be it political, be it economical, be it technical. You are developing support. So, what motivating change, creating a vision, developing a political support, and then comes the execution part, as in managing the transition and sustaining the momentum, as the case. So program management, what does it comes around? As far in HBR way back in 1995, is to establish a sense of urgency, create a guiding coalitions that comes around it, develop a mission, communicate the change mission, empower a broad base of people to take action, generating short-term wins, consolidating gains and producing even more change, anchoring institutionalizing the new approaches into the culture that comes across. This is what we are. here. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching this video.